Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Christian, and I'm a mix engineer. We've got a new mix breakdown for you today. It's Good News by Connor Price and Nick D. Let's dive in. Okay, now listen, if you were here with me last week, you're gonna see a lot of consistencies here. And I think when it comes to mixing an album, mixing them back to back, keeping things consistent is super important. So I use a lot of the same tactics that I have done with Connor's stuff before, but even in particular, going from like ambidextrous to this, there's a lot of kind of equal comparisons here. But there's also some other things that I wanna dive in here. So I'll try not to be too much of a broken record. But real quick, on the drums, I have my favorite plugin. You know it, you love it. Kilohertz Transient Shaper. That looks like it was made in 1998. I'm sorry, whoever makes this. Super easy attack, kind of taking away some of the sustain here. And I talked about this last week. I think it's really important when you have an 808 that's consistent and kind of always driving to shape the kick, to shape the bass to where they're working with each other. And making a kick really attack heavy on an 808 that's already kind of pretty hard, I think is important. And now make it attack heavy, but then we'll work the bass later, and I'll dive into that in a minute. But attack heavy, take away some of the sustain because you just don't need it. 808s are kind of already doing that. So here, take a listen. With it out. A little more of the tick on the top end, and it just kind of sucks up the sustain, just cleans up that transient. And then there's some of that tick at the top that was a little bit annoying. Now, hopping into the snare, man, talk about broken record. You know what? I don't even care. Pass everything, man. High pass all your stuff. This drives me crazy on every single mix, on every single sample pack. You just like have all this crazy low end stuff that you just don't need, man. Listen to this. You probably can't hear it off of a phone or headphones even, but like if you have a good system you're playing this off of, if you have a bunch of that stuff that's got all this unnecessary low end, it just adds up, it's crazy. And then the transient shaper on top of that. Same thing for the hat, like the exact same thing. Pass it, transient shaper, Oh, this is a great example. Here we go. Listen to all that low end. Get it out! Okay, so here's all the drums. And then on my drum bus, I have this NLS thing. Surprise, surprise, I didn't use that X saturator. Every saturator has its own shape and color and style to it. And, I didn't really want to drive these drums too hard because they're already sounding really great. And so this NLS bus thing is a cool deal because you can kind of really minimize how much drive it has. Sometimes this particular plugin makes the bass kind of sound fluttery or weird. Like the harmonic drive is strange, just from my experience. And so it works great sometimes and doesn't work sometimes. But on this particular song, it worked really well. I mean, you can also change your different styles here too, but I liked the just standard, the spike. And then my multi-maximizer here. Now, let's dive into the bass here. And, I'm a huge fan of kick and bass relationship. I think it's really important. It's really non-negotiable if you're a mix engineer, but I did this on ambidextrous last week too, and it's the same deal. Put the sidechain bus from the kick onto the compressor on the 808, super fast attack. In fact, I think this attack is faster than even last week's, and super fast release. Nothing crazy on the ratio, and then you just move the threshold to kind of get it to where it's reducing, like -3, -6, somewhere in that range. And now the thought process of the reduction here, you're just eliminating how much kick you have, right? Because once you stack this, you get kind of compounded bass frequency that you just don't need. So you're basically eliminating, or not eliminating, but turning down the kick for this amount of time. You can do it to an exact degree if you want to like go up and figure out how long the kick is. That's fine. I usually just use my ears because it's more efficient, but you can also just kind of hear naturally like what sounds the best when the kick goes. That's way too slow, but you know what I mean? Like you can just time it out to where the bass comes right back in when the kick is done. And so these are my settings on that, and you can hear this all together here. Now it's reducing a little harder, and you can kind of hear it more when it's soloed, but that's fine. You just kind of use it to taste. And then another really easy beat going on here. Here's the sample. Super sick sample. Easy high pass just to create room for the 808 and the kick. I got the stereo imager that I've been really loving lately. It just is an awesome stereo image plugin from SSL. And then here's my mid side EQ. And now here's a real time example of getting rid of some of the mids to get so we get space for the vocal. Just eliminate this in the mid, but you don't really need it in the side. And that way you're not like totally divoting out that EQ. It's really just more to allow the vocal to pop on top of the sample. And especially if you only have a sample that's doing the musical stuff, this is a really easy trick to just let the vocal sit where it needs to without doing too much to that sample. And now here's a trick that I've done a lot in the past. I haven't done it in a while, but you automate the width of the stereo image plugin to where you just kind of automate it for the choruses or moments that you really need it to. And so I did it for both choruses here, the start and the end. And then you just go back to 0 on the verses. What that does is it's an easy way to make a song pop on the parts that you want a song to pop. And so like, especially going from intro to chorus here, like check this out. It's just subtle enough, but it makes it kind of feel like it makes your brain think, oh wow, like we're there, we're in the chorus, you know? Doesn't have to be crazy. It's just super subtle moments like that help out a lot. So here's all of the music together. Cool. Now let's dive into vocals. I'm going to change my topic up here a little bit because you've seen kind of what I do in regards to the vocal thought process. If you want to see kind of how I do treatment, go to Ambidextrous from last week. Today, I'm going to talk about vocal editing and kind of really dive into that. Now, I think if you want a pop song or a hip hop song or any kind of song to just feel really clean, if it has a ton of background vocals, I think vocal editing is hands down probably the best thing you can do. It's so massively important. And this is such a crappy word, but like if you ever hear someone talk about an expensive mix or like high quality, I honestly think this is one of those aspects of working on a mix that makes something really stand out. I just feel like when you're listening to a song and it's bad vocal editing, I don't know if the average listener is thinking, oh, that's bad vocal editing, but you can kind of hear the sloppiness of like the lead vocal and all the other crazy stuff going on here, as opposed to just cleaning up your vocal. It just makes it sound like you really put the time and the effort in. It sounds professional. And so here's what I did, and I'm not, I'm saying all this because as if I'm like the greatest vocal editor. I'm not. I'm just saying it, you know, I put a lot of time into making these sound super clear. And I honestly think it paid off on this song. And so here's a really good example of Nick. He's got some falsettos right here. Now here are the two things that I did for these vocals in particular, and this is kind of what I do for most background vocals if they need it. I'll start with Vocal Align. Now, I think Waves has a version of this too that just came out. I haven't used it yet, but Vocal Align's great, does the same thing. You basically capture the lead vocal, and then you highlight the double or whatever you want it to sound like, if it's a high pitch or low pitch or just straight up double. You capture that and then you render it, and it moves all of your transients to be exactly on to where your double is identical to the lead vocal. Now, it's not turning your vocal into the lead vocal. It's just moving everything, like all the all the G's from Good News would move here. And then all the S's kind of move together. And then, so everything's just perfectly aligned. Nothing sounds sloppy. Now, on top of that, and here's where things get really tedious. So you go in and you get rid of all the breaths and all the S's. It might sound crazy on its own, but it's really important because when you have a ton of different vocals, the S's compound on each other and they just start stacking. And then you have, like, not on this song in particular, but say on a pop song, if you have like 16 backing tracks where you have the lead, two doubles, harmonies, low octave, and they're all going, just cut it to where the lead vocal's only doing the S. That's that same thought process here, where I got good news, you just cut it out. The lead vocal is the only thing that needs to be doing the S. And so when you put them together, it sounds great.
Flow like vinyl on a Sunday, groove got soul in it.
But when you solo it, it sounds pretty choppy and like not, you know, organic, right?
Flow like vinyl on a Sunday, groove got soul in it. Don't stop.
But you don't know in context. I think that's what's really important, is that in context you never know, and in context it sounds cleaner, even though on its own it sounds a little ridiculous. And so I did that for those falsettos. Let's see, these ones too. Super chopped up.
I'm holding nothing back, coming last, couldn't be me. I'm like the sun of flash, sunning fast, couldn't believe.
That's a good one. Here, and you can see, I'm cutting out a lot of stuff. Like here, I'll drag this over so you can see. Do you hear the difference? Now, again, I can't stress this enough. It sounds horrible on its own. But in context, it's very clear.
Nothing bad coming last, couldn't be me. I'm like the son of Flash, running fast, couldn't believe the way I'm.
And so anyways, I think that's a huge aspect of vocal editing, vocal clarity, and why background parts sometimes sound the way they do. Like, honestly, a masterclass is any of Ariana Grande's new album stuff. She's one to just absolutely stack it. And whoever's vocal producing and editing, all that stuff, I mean, top tier. But that's a full masterclass if you really want to go in and, like, understand good pop vocal editing. I still learn from it. It's awesome. So anyways, no talks about treatment, especially since it's kind of the same thing as last week with Ambidextrous. Same thought process, just different treatment in regards to, like, how I EQ'd, you know? Like, this is clearly a different EQ. The settings of the compressor are different, stuff like that. But thought process is all the same. And then same thing for my music bus and vocal bus. I got these limiters here that are doing just really minimal glue stuff. That's all going into the master. And so now my chain that I've talked about a lot that I really love, shout out to that friend of mine that told me about this. I've been messing with it and it's been awesome. Is Gold Clip, really helping cut off some of those transients, and then Pro L2. Same thing with the transparent setting. I really like that setting. The way it works the low end is really cool. And now this isn't the end of the chain, but I'll end with this. I think during the mix process, Connor was just like, can we bump up some of that lower frequencies? I just kind of want more of that boom. And so I think I threw this on there. But just the mid, because you don't really need it on the side, you know? And anyways, that's the whole mix. And so let me play this for you.
Way going up in a way, I flow like, yeah.
Final on a Sunday, groove got soul in it. Don't stop, dreaming on a Monday, just rock. Hey, I got good news. Been killing it lately, I'm in a good mood. Go as far as I want.
And anyways, that's the mix. If you have any questions or thoughts, please comment below. I would love to respond to them. And with that said, I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.